Hey y'all, I'm Carrie.
Hey y'all, I'm Mandy.
And this is Monstrous. This episode contains topics and language that may not be suitable for all listeners and may be triggering for some. Listener discretion is advised. Part 2.
I'm ready for this one.
All right. So we're back for another episode. It's part 2 of the JonBenet Ramsey case. This one's going to change your mind.
You keep saying that.
Yep, I can feel it.
We'll see. I'll let you know after.
Okay. So now, obviously, just like we did part 1, we're not going to give our personal opinions on what we think happened or who is responsible. We're giving you the facts, what's out there. We're going to break stuff down. And then everyone form their own opinions. Just like in part 1, I told you about the night of the murder, the crime scene, the autopsy, a few of the strange things that are part of the case. And then we left off with Boulder Police Chief Tom Covey telling the public that there was no threat to them. The murder of JonBenet was an isolated event, which still makes no fucking sense to me.
Yeah, I didn't understand that.
Yeah, I don't see how do you know it's an isolated incident?
Right.
Makes absolutely no fucking
They
sense.
didn't even know how to secure a crime scene.
Right, exactly. I feel like there is much reason to panic, but okay. Whatever, my guy. Okay, so following this, Patsy and John Ramsey took part in one of the many televised interviews. During this, Patsy looked directly into the camera and says something like, "Hold your babies tight because there's someone out there." So she's contradicting what the police are saying.
Mm-hmm.
People are like, there's a fucking crazy person on the loose breaking into people's houses and killing their kids, or is there not?
Right.
Like, who are we supposed to believe? Which, in this episode, you'll see, there is so much contradictory information that's been released. And because of all of that, and what's out there today, nobody really has any fucking idea where to go. Because there's a lot behind the scenes, and the public is only given so much.
Right.
So, we still don't have a clue today. On top of that, there's a bunch of, political and, money shit happening. Because, why not? So, there was a lot of people not actually looking to serve justice. But instead, they wanted to get this out of the papers. Just get rid of it. And I think because of that, there was a lot lost. And I fully believe that this case can be solved. I just don't know what it needs to be solved. But it definitely could be. So we're going to start with the resignation of one of the case's detectives who asked, how do you politicize the murder of a 6-year-old? Like, how the fuck does that happen?
Mm-hmm.
No idea. But it did. So one last piece of evidence that was a big deal that never really had an answer to that came about was a boot print that was found right next to JonBenet's body.
They didn't do anything with it?
They don't know who it belongs to.
Oh. Well, yeah. Could have been the one that did it or the many people that were in there because they didn't secure the crime scene.
Exactly. So this was made by what is called a high-tech boot. So this print had the words high-tech on the bottom of it, obviously. There was also a partial palm print found on the door frame that led to the wine cellar, and it matched neither of the Ramsey adult family members.
Holy shit.
Yep. That DNA found is looking pretty good now, huh?
Right. Yeah.
So, now I mentioned it at the end of the last episode. The Ramsey family moved to Atlanta, Georgia in the summer of 1997. In August of 1998, Detective Steve Thomas resigned, like I said just a couple minutes ago, over the way in which the case was handled. He was one out of the 5 leading detectives on this case. When he resigned, he wrote a very long resignation letter. I'm not going to read you the entire thing, but I'm going to read you some of the parts that I think are important.
Okay.
It says, quote, "Chief Beckner, on June 22nd, I submitted a letter to Chief Covey requesting a leave of absence from the Boulder Police Department in response to persistent speculation as to why I chose to leave the Ramsey investigation. This letter explains more fully those reasons. Although my concerns were well known for some time, I tried to be gracious in my departure, addressing only health concerns. However, after a month of soul searching and reflection, I feel I must now set the record straight. The primary reason why I chose to leave is my belief that the district attorney's office continues to mishandle the Ramsey case. I had been troubled for many months with many aspects of the investigation, albeit an uphill battle of a case to begin with. It became a nearly impossible investigation because of the political alliances, physiological differences, and professional egos that blocked progress in more ways and on more occasions than can be detailed in this memorandum. I and others voiced these concerns repeatedly. In the interest of hoping justice would be served, we tolerated it. Except for those closed-door sessions when detectives protested in frustration, where fists hit the tables, where detectives demanded that the right things be done, the wrong things were done, and made it a matter of simple principle that I could not continue to participate as it stood with the district attorney's office. As an organization, we remained silent when we should have shouted. The Boulder Police Department took a handful of detectives days after the murder and handed us this case. As one of those 5 primary detectives, we tackled it for a year and a half. We conducted an extensive investigation, followed the evidence where it led us, and were faithfully and professionally committed to this case. Although not perfect, cases rarely are. During 18 months on the Ramsey investigation, my colleagues and I worked the case day and night. And in spite of tied hands on June 1st and 2nd, 1998, we crunched 30,000 pages of investigation to its essence and put our cards on the table, delivering the case in a formal presentation to the district attorney's office. We stood confident in our work. Very shortly thereafter, though, the detectives who know this case better than anyone, were advised by the district attorney's office that we would not be participating as grand jury advisory witnesses. The very entity with whom we shared our investigative case file to see justice sought, I felt, was betraying this case. We were never afforded true prosecutorial support. There was never a consolidation of resources. All legal opportunities were not made available. How were we expected to, quote unquote, solve this case when the district attorney's office was crippling us with their positions? I believe they were literally facilitating the escape of justice during this investigation. Consider the following. He goes through an entire list of issues. Okay. I'm not going to read the whole list, but I'll list a few that I think are some pretty big ones. So he says that detectives discovered, collected, and brought evidence to the DA's office only to have it either dismissed or rationalized as insignificant. They employed elementary investigative efforts, including getting no support in obtaining phone and credit card records, and search warrants being denied. The opinions of national experts were either dismissed or ignored, including experienced FBI who were pushed to the side. Those that chose not to cooperate with police were never compelled before a grand jury. He says an informant came to detectives about conduct that was happening inside the DA's office, which included allegations of a plan to just destroy a man's career. And with that, the department did nothing but alert the accused and then burn 2 of their own detectives. Opposite of department protocol, police reports, physical evidence, and investigative information was shared with the Ramsey's defense attorneys in the spirit of cooperation. He said he served a search warrant to find out later that defense attorneys were just given copies of what the search yielded. He was informed by an FBI agent that the DA's office was investigating the police department behind their backs. He was also advised not to talk to certain witnesses and all but dissuaded from pursuing certain investigative efforts.
But why?
It's a good question. And all of this surrounds this specific case.
Right. That's fucking insane.
Yep. Polygraphs were acceptable for some suspects, but others, he said, were immune from being even asked to take one. Now, in all of this, he never names names on who he's talking about or any of that. Innocent people were not cleared when they should have been, resulting in lives and reputations being ruined. He states that he was told someone within the DA's office had been unable to break an officer from his account of what he said happened that day. He was repeatedly reminded by some of those in the DA's office about just how powerful, talented, and resourceful certain defense attorneys were. There was evidence that was crucial to the investigation that had never been collected, because neither search warrants nor other means to obtain it was supported, which included evidence that sat inside the lab untested. Investigation efforts were rebuffed, and he says his search warrant affidavits and his attempts to gather evidence were met with refusal, and instead it was suggested to him that they ask permission of the Ramseys first. And then, just before interviews of the Ramseys were conducted, he was lectured on building trust.
That's insane.
Mm-hmm. So there's more on that list after that. Once he goes through and names everything, he then goes on to say, quote, "I believe the district attorney's office is thoroughly compromised. When we were told by one in the district attorney's office months before we had even completed our investigation that this case, quote, is not prosecutable, we shook our heads in disbelief. A lot could have been forgiven, the lesser transgressions ignored for the right done. Instead, those in the district attorney's office encouraged us to allow them to, quote, work their magic, which is never fully understood." Like he has no idea what the fuck they mean by that. Mm-hmm. Did that quote unquote magic include sharing our case file information with the defense attorneys, dragging feet in evidence collection, or believing that 2 decades of used car dealing style plea bargaining was somehow going to solve this case? Right and wrong is just that. Some of these issues were not shades of gray. Decisions should have been made as such, whether a suspect a penniless indigent with a public defender or otherwise. Unmistakably, and worst of all, we have failed a little girl named JonBenet. 6 years old, many good people, decent, innocent citizens were forever bound by the murder of this child. There is a tremendous obligation to them, but an infinitely greater obligation to her as she rests in a small cemetery far away from this anomaly of a place called Boulder. He said, "I just want justice for a child who was killed in her home on Christmas night." And he ends this with saying, as a now infamous author panicked in the night once penned, use that good Southern common sense of yours. That is from the ransom note, he said. I will do just that. Originally, from a small Southern town where this would have never been tolerated, where respect for law and order and traditions were instilled in me. I will take that murderous author's out of context advice and use my good Southern common sense to put this case into the perspective it necessitates. A precious child was murdered. There needs to be some consequence to that. 36 years old, I thought my life's passion as a police officer was carved in stone. I realized that although I may have to trade my badge for a carpenter's hammer, I will do so with a clear conscience. It is with a heavy heart that I offer my resignation from the Boulder Police Department in protest of this continuing travesty, end quote. So, that's a lot. And there's more to the letter than that. But I felt that that was the big important stuff.
Right.
Because there's a lot in there that we hadn't heard before. And if you can read the whole thing. It's online. You just have to Google Detective Steve Thomas resignation letter. And I think it's the second one. It's by Boulder Daily Camera. They got the whole thing on there. So this now former detective clearly knew that something was going on that was blocking them from solving the case. Like it wasn't unsolvable. Mm-hmm. And the evidence from the sound of it was being covered up and someone was being protected. Just don't know who.
And still don't.
Right. So Steve Thomas was not the only person to resign after this case. In September, after this detective, Lou Smith also resigned, and he basically resigned for the same reasons. He was not happy with how the case had been handled. He, though, made it very clear in his resignation letter that he did not believe either of the Ramsey parents had murdered their daughter. But he did believe that justice was not being served or worked to the best of their ability. So he's like, I don't think the Ramseys are responsible for this, but this case is not being handled the way in which it should be.
That's fucked up for real.
Yeah. He said that the department was catering to the whims of others and to the powerful entities instead of doing what was right. So clearly, something wasn't right with the DA's office and something was going on.
That's crazy, though.
Yep.
Was her dad a powerful man?
I mean, he was like a big wig in like the business world.
Right. But not
I wouldn't think
something like,
right.
but you don't know what connections he had though either.
That's true, but
I don't know. That's weird.
But one of the leading detectives even said he did not believe either of the Ramsey parents were involved in any way.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, what connections could the dad possibly have
That could have caused someone else to do it.
Someone else to do it. Not the
Right.
not the Ramseys, not the parents, but like
someone they knew.
Yeah, that the DA's covering for. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. I don't know what kind of connections they had.
Like, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Had to been something.
Right. Somebody was covering for somebody.
Yeah.
Whether they were connected to the Ramseys, like, on a personal level or not.
Right.
Somebody's covering up and saving somebody's ass.
Right. And that's... Or they could just be saving their own asses because when it first happened, they were so fucking incompetent that they couldn't even secure the crime scene or anything.
That's true, too.
I don't know.
Because that has happened before. So that's true, too.
That's crazy.
Now, in 2013, court documents were released, and these showed that the grand jury had actually, in fact, voted to indict John and Patricia Ramsey on 2 cases, both in 1999. So one count was for child abuse resulting in death, and the other was a count of accessory to a crime. But I'm not exactly sure what evidence there was for that. Mm-hmm. Because even the detectives were like, we don't think they're involved.
Right.
So I'm not sure how that happened. But these are private. Mm-hmm. We don't know what was said or presented. So the way it's worded, it basically says that both parents knowingly put JonBenet in a situation that resulted in great injury or death. So the way that the grand jury wrote it is saying that they knew that she was going to die. But the detectives say opposite.
Right.
The 2 detectives that resigned, mind you. Mm-hmm. So something's not right. But the DA at the time, Alex Hunter, decided to ignore that vote and would not sign the indictments. Mm. So I don't know if it's the grand jury wanted someone held responsible, and maybe that's what it was. And he's like, no, it's very clear that they didn't. I'm not sure. So now CNN put out an article after they spoke with field experts and several former DAs, including Greg Silverman, who was a former Denver chief deputy DA. He was the DA for Denver for over 16 years. And when he was consulted on this, he said about it, quote, exceptionally rare for a DA not to go with a grand jury's charges. He further said, quote, why would a DA have a grand jury deliberate and vote if he's not going to pursue the charges that they bring back? He continued with, quote, and did the jury come up with those charges on their own? No way. One of the DAs had to provide that verbiage. So after all this came out, Jeffrey Dublin on CNN, he's a legal analyst for them, said that the indictments basically show that most of the grand jury felt there was probable cause to indict both John and Patsy. But an indictment does not prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. And the fact that the DA did not sign off on the indictment most likely meant that he believed he couldn't prove the charges that the grand jury voted for. So he's like, there's no point in doing it. A grand jury indictment does not mean that you're guilty. You still have to be taken to trial. You still have to be proven guilty. And I guess the DA just didn't feel, he felt like it was a waste of money. So no point in doing it. So there's that side of it. I said we were going to talk about the pineapple in part 1. Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about that now because that is a huge thing here. So at the crime scene, they found a bowl of cut up pineapple on the kitchen table, which obviously somebody put it there. Right. It didn't just fucking grow legs and put itself there. As you'll see with all these theories, they kind of get funky as they play out. Okay. In passing, it's like, oh, maybe. But when you break it down, they're real funky, okay? So just keep that in mind. So this bowl had Burke's and Patsy's fingerprints on it. Now, the Ramseys said that they did not put the pineapple there and that they had no idea how it got there. And Burke has said that he doesn't remember how it got there. He's never said that he didn't put it there, just that he can't remember. So this bowl of pineapple had cut up chunks and it had a tablespoon in it, which I don't know anybody that would eat pineapple with a tablespoon, but I don't know.
That's what I was going to say.
Who fucking knows? That's weird to me, but to each their own. Some people only eat like certain things. Like Logan, he'll only eat mac and cheese with a spoon. Mm-hmm. He will not use a fork to eat mac and cheese. Yeah. If we have mac and cheese with our dinner and he's using a fork, he's got to get a spoon. Whereas Daxton don't give a fuck. So it could just be one of those situations. It could also be one of the Ramsey kids got the pineapple and then they just grabbed whatever they could reach. That's possible too. There was also an empty glass of tea that only had Burke's fingerprints on it, which that would indicate that Burke was most likely awake at some point during the night. It could have been before, during, or after his sister's murder. And it's possible that he could have been half asleep or could have just forgotten that he did it. Now, all three had held that Burke had been asleep that entire night, but at some point later, Burke changed that. In 2016, Dr. Phil had done an interview with Burke, which at this point, this was the first time he had ever spoken out publicly. In this interview, Burke told Dr. Phil that he had been awake that night at some point because he had wanted to play with one of the toys that he had gotten for Christmas. He said he woke up after everyone else had already gone to bed and he wanted to play with, I think it was like a certain train or something, I think. But he couldn't remember anything about pineapple. So pineapple's there. It came from some fucking where, but nobody seems to remember where it came from. But the crazy part is that during JonBenet's autopsy, they found fresh pineapple chunks inside her digestive tract, which most likely was ingested within a few hours of her death. And she had not eaten pineapple at the Christmas party. Neither of her parents recalled seeing her eat pineapple. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that she didn't.
Right.
They just don't remember seeing it. And Burke does not remember her eating pineapple there either. The Ramsey parents were both asked, okay, well, did you give it to her as a snack? They both said no. She was carried into bed from the car, never got up. Later, a prosecutor for the DA's office, Trip DeMuth, had asked Patsy if she could understand that the only people that could have fed her daughter pineapple was herself or the Whites, to which she said, or whoever killed JonBenet, right? Which that is possible.
Right.
It's kind of out there, but it is possible. We've seen it before. Mm-hmm. Whoever killed JonBenet could have been an employee of the Ramseys. It could have been someone that she knew, woke her up in the middle of the night, given her a snack, and then what happened, happened. Mm-hmm. Her not screaming or alerting anyone would point to it being someone she knew. So there's a lot of false information out there, including that the fibers found in JonBenet's bed were consistent with the ropes around her, which has led people to believe that she was subdued and then tied up in her bed. But this is not true. The fibers found in her bed were all fine fibers, but the cord was made of nylon. Two totally different things. So based on this, JonBenet was not tied up in her bed, or at least there's no proof that she was. Somehow she was gotten out of bed without waking anyone else in the house, fed a snack, which again leads to being someone she knew. Mm-hmm. So this leads us to the idea of the possible use of a stun gun. Because remember, in part 1, in her autopsy, they found 2 marks that looked like they could have come from a stun gun. They've never been proven to come from one. There's many theories out there about these marks, but they look like they would match a stun gun. So many people believe that JonBenet was hit with a stun gun and then was carried downstairs, which would point to an intruder that she did not know. But then you go back to, how did the pineapple get into her stomach? If she was carried to bed because she was asleep, and the autopsy showed that she had ate fresh pineapple chunks shortly before her murder, and she was removed from her room, taken into the basement, and killed without alarming anyone inside the home, then the killer would have had to be someone that JonBenet knew. Patsy believed whoever killed her daughter is the one that fed her the pineapple, which I don't think an unknown intruder would have been able to wake JonBenet up without alerting anyone, or without first subduing her, and then take her into the kitchen, cut up a pineapple, put it in a bowl with milk, then brew her some iced tea, all before taking her to the basement where she was assaulted and murdered.
Right.
Some random person isn't going to do that.
Mm-mm.
Then, after all of that, they would need to have time to write that 21-minute long ransom note.
Right.
Then, you have the fact that JonBenet's fingerprints weren't on the bowl. It was only Burke and Patsy's.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I want to be clear, okay? This does not prove murder. By any means, does this mean that Patsy or Burke murdered their sister or daughter?
Mm-hmm.
That does not prove shit. The fingerprints could have been old because this was a normal snack that Burke ate. And Patsy was a stay-at-home mom, so she did most of the housework. And depending on the material and the environment conditions, fingerprints can remain on a surface anywhere from a few days to even a few years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So these could have been old. They may not have been from that night.
Right.
Patsy's fingerprints could have been there from cleaning the bowl, putting it back in the cabinet. Then Burke could have made himself a snack and then some tea, which would account for his fingerprints. And because they stay so long, it doesn't really prove or disprove anything. Okay, it's just one of those many questions that surround the case. The big thing is that someone needs to tell us where this fucking pineapple came from. Because the theories that surround
the pineapple,
just the pineapple, are insane.
Well, it is kind of weird.
Right. So I'm going to tell you two of the big ones that are out there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So one out there says that Patsy and John planted the pineapple, which makes no fucking sense to me. And it does not account for the pineapple in JonBenet's digestive tract.
Right.
Like, that makes absolutely no sense. So I don't believe that one at all. The biggest one out there, though, is what they call the pineapple rage theory. Yep.
Oh my God.
Just the name of it alone. Like,
right.
So this one says that JonBenet took a piece of pineapple from Burke, who then, in a fit of rage over a piece of pineapple, hit his little sister over the head with something hard enough to kill her. This theory then goes on to include her parents, saying both John and Patsy staged a kidnapping with the ransom note and then took their daughter to the basement for her to later be found. Okay? That is the biggest one and the one that most people believe. Full honesty here, for a long time I was on this bandwagon. I am no longer on the bandwagon with everyone on this one. Not at all. There's several key things missing that point to this not being true. So I'm going to destroy this theory for you.
Okay.
First, JonBenet's cause of death was asphyxia by strangulation, associated with craniocerebral trauma. So this very popular theory covers the trauma to her head because it says that Burke hit her in the head with something heavy, okay, widely believed to be a flashlight. But what about the strangulation? Where does that play in here?
Knocked unconscious, but not dead?
Yeah, but strangulation, he would have had to, like, strangle her.
Right. But what I'm saying is, the theory says that he supposedly hit her and killed her, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not what she died from.
No. She had head trauma.
She did.
That was part of what killed her.
Right.
But she was also strangled. So where is that in the theory? If he hit her on the head and it killed her, where does the strangulation fit in there?
Right.
With those two causes of death, right?
Mm-hmm.
Say this theory is what happened. Burke would have hit his sister in the head hard enough to fracture her skull after she took some of his pineapple. JonBenet obviously would have fallen. Then Burke would have had to climb on top of her at 9 years old and then strangle his 6-year-old little sister without making any noise or alerting anyone.
I cannot say anything without giving my opinion. So I am just sitting here looking at you debunk stuff.
Could it be possible? Sure. But it kind of sounds outlandish to me.
I'm trying to figure out how to word stuff right now.
Okay, well, you let me know when you figure it out. We'll stop.
We've seen crazier things.
We have.
Crazier
We
things
have.
we've covered. Murder shows that we have watched that were true, that have been more outlandish and really happened.
Yeah, we have.
Than this.
It's just, there would have been noise. I'm not done yet, though.
Okay.
Now, let's look at her parents' involvement in this theory, okay?
Mm-hmm.
I get it. They've lost one child, want to save the other because he is only 9, all they have left. I could see it. But when you look at everything done to her after she was murdered, I don't see how that would be how they would want her to be found. Okay? The rope around her wrist was loose, so staged. Right. The rope around her neck, though, was so tight that it left indentions in her neck. So tight that the coroner almost couldn't see it.
Mm-hmm.
And so tight that it was embedded into her neck. This was done post-mortem. So yes, it was done after. It was done to stage it. But why would her parents do that? If it is done staged to make it look as though that is what killed her,
Mm-hmm.
why tie it so tight around her throat that you can barely see the rope?
A rage?
But they're not angry at her. According to this, they're covering up what Burke did. Why would you tie the rope around her wrist loose, but not the one around her neck? As her parent.
Right.
Then you have the paintbrush that was taken from Patsy's art stuff in the basement. This paintbrush was broken and used to make a garrote,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which this was what was used to tighten the rope.
Mm-hmm.
If this was an accident and a cover-up by her parents, then why would they leave the child that they doted on, their star child, to be found and forever remembered in this way? Because this is how everyone remembers her.
Right.
It makes no sense. Now, remember how I said that JonBenet had been sexually assaulted around the time of her death?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is the biggest thing that makes me think and say this theory is not what happened. There was DNA found inside her underwear and on her long johns, like I told you. The DNA was tested in 2008, and it was found to belong to an unidentified male. So not her father or her brother.
Mm-hmm.
So the theory is a reach for me because she was sexually assaulted shortly before her death, not within days or around the time that she was killed. But it doesn't match her brother or her dad.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's the case, then how did Burke do it? If
Right.
Burke's the one that killed her, wouldn't it be his DNA?
Right.
So if you look at how she was found, what happened to her, this theory makes no sense. There's several key things missing. This one, it covers the trauma to her head. Okay. Which, sure, a 9-year-old could hit a smaller child over the head with something heavy.
Right.
And be able to fracture their skull. But her cause of death included strangulation. Mm-hmm. And not strangulation by ligature, so she was not strangled with the rope. Where is that included? It's not. Then you think about how she was left. If her parents covered it up, why would they want her to be found?
That way.
Exactly. It doesn't make any fucking sense.
I don't know. Oh, I can't say anything.
You just have to watch what you say.
That's the problem. How do you know that something wasn't done to her by a male at the party?
Because there were a ton of people there. There were other kids she was playing with. And from what I gathered, she was in eyesight of her parents at all times during this party.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yep.
Okay. I don't know that part then.
Yep. It doesn't make any sense. When you break it down.
Okay, so
like when you just.
That part I get. So that part I can't explain. I don't have any theories on that at all. That part doesn't make sense to me at all.
No.
But other parts I could see that could make sense.
Well, yeah.
I've seen crazier shit.
Right.
Especially even from children.
Right. And that's why, like, glancing at it, okay, it's a good theory.
Right.
But when you break it down into pieces, it makes no sense. And there are big things missing that you can't dispute because that's how she was found.
Not putting the blame on nobody.
Right.
I'm just saying what if it was staged like that? Okay. I'm not talking about the DNA,
Right.
but the rope, the stuff from her, the paintbrush
Right.
and stuff like that. For people like you to question, why would you want your daughter put in that light? What if, don't think about it. I'm not telling you to believe it.
There's something I haven't told you.
Oh, shit. Well, damn. Okay.
The part of the broken paintbrush that was found in the room with her, it is believed that was used to sexually assault her.
You said that in the first part.
Did I?
Yeah.
I don't remember if I said that.
Yeah, you said that in the
So, as a parent to this child, you take one of your paintbrushes or your wife's paintbrushes, whatever, break it.
Right.
And then use that to sexually assault your daughter, but leave no DNA. How does that even make sense? What is the purpose? What is the purpose? If you're just staging it, okay, to make it look as if this happened, what is the purpose of actually sexually assaulting her?
Again, I'm going to say I'm not accusing anybody, but I've seen parents from being in foster care and stuff like that, and my being adopted and my parents being foster parents and stuff. I've seen some horrendous stuff that parents can do to their kids. I'm not saying
I know.
I'm just saying I wouldn't put it past anybody to do fucked up shit like that to their own child.
The sexual assault happened after she was dead.
I know. You said that in the first part.
So what would be the purpose of doing it after she was dead?
To make people like, mama, to make people question. I'm not.
I know.
That's what happened.
Right.
I'm just saying, it's just.
Deal with her.
I'm not saying it was them.
Right.
I'm just saying I've seen what kind of monsters are out there. I'm not going to say that they would do that to their child. I'm not saying that they staged it. I'm not saying that her brother.
It has happened
like that. But I could see where the theory. Was halfway believed, because there is people that are sick and disgusting. Like that outfit.
I can see how.
What I'm trying to say.
The theory is believable.
Right.
And even after this, people are going to, some of our listeners, they're going to be, hold fast, this is what it is. What I'm saying is, when you look at it like that, as a parent, this was done after she was dead. What is the point in that? If you're only staging, what would be the point in you taking it that step farther? I don't see a point in it. If you were simply staging it to make it look this way to save your other child.
Right.
I don't see a point in doing that.
To your own child.
Exactly.
Right.
That's why I'm like, it's reaching for me.
Right.
Because when you break it down, it doesn't all fit together perfectly. You
breaking it down makes sense of how stuff doesn't align. But for the people that haven't broke it down, that haven't looked into it, that have seen what some people are capable of and have done to their own children. I could see why they believe it, because I was on that bandwagon.
I was too. Until I looked into it and I knew everything on how she was found and what the autopsy said. That's what I thought.
Because I've been wanting to cover this case. I've been wanting.
I know.
And from part 1, and then what we're doing right now, part 2, I've learned more than what I knew before about it.
Because a lot of this is not like openly out there, such as as the theories are.
Right.
The autopsy,
down a rabbit hole.
Right, exactly. And once you go down it, it's like, okay, maybe what I thought is wrong. Yeah, that's exactly what I went through when I did it.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, didn't know that. Okay, so there are other theories, obviously. Okay, but I wanted to dive into that one because that is the biggest one out there. Like we said, that's the big one that everybody believes. I just think it's too far out there. There's a lot of things missing, a lot of things that is not accounted for. As a parent, I can't see, especially just because of how they doted on her.
Right. She was their star.
Exactly. I can't see them wanting her to be remembered in that way. Because nobody remembers her, you know, from her pageants or her pictures. They remember her for how she was found.
Yeah.
I find that with how much they doted on her to be very hard to believe that that's how they would leave her to be found.
Right.
Moving on from there, they found a Maglite flashlight, and this was photographed on the Ramsey's kitchen counter. And although innocent seeming, this flashlight has become a very big thing for theorists and, at the time, the press. So first press outlets were saying that there were actually 2 flashlights and that one had gone missing. Then they said that the flashlight had been photographed but had never been taken into custody. And it was believed by many that John Ramsey had hid that flashlight while police and others were inside the home before JonBenet was found. So that was a big thing that went around. Mm-hmm. But there was an official statement put out by the police department saying that there was only 1 flashlight, not 2, and that it had been collected and it was immediately sent to the Colorado Bureau of Investigation for testing. It was then sent back to Boulder Police, and that is where it sits today. When the results came back in, there were no fingerprints on the outside of the flashlight or on the batteries of it. Which, it could have been wiped clean. There could have been no fingerprints to lift. You know, they could have been smudged or whatever, and they just couldn't get them. So there's that. So after all this, there was a bunch of back and forth about who owned the flashlight. So at first, the Ramseys were shown a photo of the flashlight, and it was shown to them after the fingerprint dust had been put on it. So it's all covered in like this gray dust. So usually the black shiny flashlight was now like a matte gray color. Mm-hmm. So of course they were like, no, that's not ours. Which, yeah, it looks totally different. So a lot of shit like had come about them saying it wasn't theirs, but it actually was. It looks different now. Mm-hmm. Eventually, it was confirmed to be their flashlight. According to Linda Pugh, I think that's how you say her name, their former housekeeper, she also worked for their friends, the Fernies. This was, in fact, their flashlight. It had just been dirty and covered in that dust. Now, looking at it again, Patsy confirmed that it was there sitting on the kitchen counter, and that had been given to John by his son, John Andrew, the year before for either Christmas or his birthday. John, on the other hand, always kind of went back and forth on if it was theirs or not. So a Maglite flashlight, for anyone that doesn't know, looks like the ones that police carry. And at first, people on scene thought maybe it was one of theirs, but they're like, no, we have all of ours. John said that they had not used a flashlight recently, so it couldn't have been there sitting on the counter, which is something that Burke and Patsy had also said. They all said that the flashlight was normally kept in a drawer by the bar area by the spiral staircase, which is where the ransom note was found. Now, they went and looked inside this drawer, which was partially open, and the flashlight wasn't in there. But no one knew how it even got out of the drawer and onto the counter because they all said they didn't touch it. Now, another crazy part of this case is that Warner Spitz reviewed the autopsy, and it showed a, quote, perfectly rectangular defect in JonBenet's skull. So this defect is where her skull had been cracked, and they seem to believe that it had been caused by that flashlight because it would fit that defect. It was about an 8.5-inch blow to her head, and if you look at the flashlight, like from the top of it where the light comes out, it would fit the break in her skull perfectly. But they don't actually know. It's just what they think. Now, this is where things get even stranger when it comes to the flashlight. When Burke did his interview with Dr. Phil, he said that he had woken up in the middle of the night, like I said before, to put that toy together that he had gotten for Christmas. But how Dr. Phil had asked the question is kind of confusing. So it's hard to say which question he's actually answered because Dr. Phil kind of asked him a two-sided question. So he asked Burke if he had used a flashlight, then immediately asked if John had used a flashlight that night to put him to bed. And Burke agreed, saying, yep. So there's no clarification if he's saying, okay, did you use the flashlight or did your dad use the flashlight? Like, we don't know.
Right.
That was never clarified. So we know for sure that the flashlight was kept inside the drawer because the Ramseys confirmed that it was. In the video of the crime scene walkthrough, you can see that the drawer is half open. So if anyone came into their home that didn't know them or their home, they wouldn't have been able to find the legal pad, the pen, been able to write the 21 ransom note, or know where the flashlight was, or how to get around the labyrinth house that the Ramsey owned. If you look at it being some random guy off the street, I don't see how any of that's possible.
Mm-hmm.
And the only person, according to the Ramseys, that they had given a key to their house was their housekeeper. So they themselves don't believe it was anyone that they knew. But the random intruder theory just doesn't fit here. Not for me. So now we've gotten through everything in part 1, clarified some of the big things that are out there that have been portrayed in a certain way. So now we're going to dive into the suspects and a couple of the theories that revolve around them and what the Ramseys think happened. So this is not me saying that any of the Ramsey family members had any part in JonBenet's death. Obviously, this is just what have come out as a part of the investigation. So now the first one is that Patsy herself, which I don't believe this one at all. I feel like this is very reaching. That Patsy herself had killed JonBenet. This one says that Patsy snapped because JonBenet had wet her bed, and after getting angry at her for this, she threw her into a drawer, killing her, and then she covered it up.
Yeah, I don't believe that one.
Burke later said in an interview about Patsy that they were never spanked. Nothing ever even close to it, let alone killing either one of them. He was adamant that neither of the Ramsey parents believed in corporal punishment. He also said that he had never seen his mother lose her temper, let alone become out of her mind with anger. He said, every parent gets annoyed and frustrated and sometimes gets mad at their kids or, something that their kid did, something that they said, whatever. But he said that Patsy never screamed, never yelled at them. She didn't throw things and she never hit anyone. And then in each of the interviews that Patsy did, you can clearly tell that she's distraught about her daughter. It's really easy to watch the interviews of the Ramsey family and kind of pick apart what we think they're not doing right. But she seems torn apart by the death of her daughter. So I just don't buy into this one at all. The next one says that Patsy helped cover up the death of JonBenet after Burke had accidentally killed her, like I said earlier. Now, John Ramsey is the other half to that story. People pinpoint to the fact that he had started looking in the basement when he and Fleet were sent by the detective to search the house from top to bottom. A lot of people find that very odd. But the more you think about it, it kind of makes sense to start there. Because he and Patsy were already upstairs. They had already looked through that area. So why not start where you haven't looked yet?
Right.
It just makes sense to start there. It's easy to kind of glance at these things and be like, well, he went right where she was. But if you remember, he went down there before and just kind of glanced around and then went back upstairs. So if he knew where JonBenet was the whole time, why didn't John just quote unquote find her sooner? Why wait? Doesn't really make sense there. Not only this, but the basement was huge. Some of it was finished and some of it wasn't. Like part of it was fully finished. Then there were other parts like the wine cellar that still had the ground, like the dirt floor. Now the grand jury had actually been taken to the home and given a tour, including the basement. The juror said that the layout was strange and the basement was very complex. It was not an open basement. It had all kinds of turns and corners and like different little places that somebody could hide in. So knowing that, it makes sense to start there and look in all of those different places because it's much more complex. It's going to take longer to look there. The second and third floors are going to be easy to search. It's mostly, open rooms, closets, beds, things like that. So now remember, Fleet White said that John Ramsey yelled, "Oh my God," before the light came on in the light cellar. Those tests were done, said you couldn't see when the lights came on. Although compelling and makes you wonder, you can't prove this for several reasons. We weren't there. Everyone's eyes see differently. Some people can see in the dark where others can't. He also lived in that house.
Right.
He knew what was down there, knew what belonged, knew what didn't. He could have just seen something and jumped to that conclusion that it was JonBenet because he knew it didn't belong there. Some people also point to how John had ripped the tape in court off of JonBenet. But again, like I said in part 1, I don't think this means anything. I mean, she's got cord wrapped around her. She has duct tape on her mouth. She's 6 years old. I probably would have done the exact same fucking thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that John was intentionally trying to destroy anything. I think that he's seen her, his dad instincts kicked in, and he did what any parent would do. So now there is the bit of John arranging to leave town after this. This was not, and to many, it's still not a good look for him or the family. But he could have been in shock, and he could have been dissociating from what was going on. It looks bad, but it doesn't prove guilt in any kind of way. But then you have Patsy not getting up right away when she heard the yelling for an ambulance. But then she had to be carried into the room with JonBenet after she had been brought upstairs. So it's strange, does give an odd look, but when you break it down and you really think about how the human brain works when it comes to trauma and situations like this, John could have been just throwing himself into work, trying to just get through it, while Patsy could have been in a catatonic state and just not been able to move. Like, she could have just known by the way that her husband sounded, something was wrong. That could have just been the way that her brain handled it. With all of this, you can go either way. On one hand, you can see, and we have to acknowledge that things look weird as fuck. Shit seems shady. But on the other, you can see, and you have to acknowledge that you can't judge someone's guilt off of how they act, especially when it comes to a situation like this. The family is always the first that gets looked at. This case is hard because they do look guilty in certain ways. But it could have also been a random intruder. Although, based off everything, that's a small chance. Could have been someone that they knew and trusted in their home and trusted around their children. This all brings us back to Burke Ramsey. People point to the fact that JonBenet was the Ramsey's star child. And even though Burke went to his sister's pageants and that JonBenet got most of his mother's attention while his father was away at work a lot. But in interviews, he didn't seem to resent that. He said that he was just always kind of used to it. Things were always about his sister, and he never really got any kind of attention. It wasn't anything new for him. So it's sad, but that's the reality that he always lived in. But like everything else that surrounds the family, it does not point to a proved murder. Shortly after his 9th birthday, and for a little while before, though, he did have some troubling behavior. He kind of went through a phase, it's gross. He kind of went through a phase of smearing feces on things, I guess, from reports I read. So he was troubled at this age. There was a lot going on. He was dealing with a lot. Then you pair that with him being around the age of getting ready to start the early stages of puberty. Burke had a lot going on internally. With his dad working a lot, his mother's attention primarily on JonBenet, he was just kind of left to deal with everything on his own. So he acted out. It could have been his way of trying to get attention. Because some kids do act out to get attention.
Yeah, they do.
That could have been all that it was. Now, I've already told you the pineapple theory. We went through that whole thing. And that's the biggest one. So we're not going to go through that one. Then in interviews, they have brought up the stun gun marks found on JonBenet's body. Which again, it's not known for sure if it was a stun gun, but that's what is believed. Those marks also, apparently, perfectly fit with the little prongs that are on Burke's toy trains that were found in the basement. So they say that he had gotten mad at her, hit her with a flashlight, and then she fell unconscious onto his toy trains. Or that he may have taken the train or tracks and poked her to try to wake her up after he hit her. Which, okay, that's possible. But where the fuck does the pineapple fit? If he got mad at her and hit her and then poked her with a train to try to wake her up, where'd the pineapple go? She ate pineapple at some point.
Right.
So this was brought up to him, and he said that he had no understanding of how he would even do that. He seemed sort of confused by the whole thing. And he said that he wasn't confused. He seemed like it. He said he wasn't, but that he just couldn't understand poking someone with a toy train set. What would be the purpose of that? Is basically what he's saying, which I get it. Burke also denies being the voice at the end of that 911 call from that night. Chief Beckner and Detective Steve Thomas fully believe that that voice on that call is Burke. He denies it, says he was not awake when the call took place. John Ramsey denies that he was awake, and Patsy denied that he was awake during this call when she died in 2006, until she died in 2006. So even though the chief and the detective fully think that, there's no way to prove it. So now we're going to go back to that Dr. Phil interview with Burke. In this episode, they brought out the interviews with with the child psychiatrist that he had spoken to right after and for the next few years following his sister's murder. Burke had never seen these tapes at this point. Which, can you imagine?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to see them.
How weird and like re-traumatizing that would all be. So in one of these tapes, which was about 13 days after everything, he was asked to draw a picture of his family. And in it, he drew himself, his father John, and his mother Patsy. But he did not draw JonBenet. This one's tough. Many people say that this is an obvious sign that he was already moving on from his sister's murder. And even at 9 years old, he said, "I'm getting on with life." And people said that this could be him, being indifferent to the entire thing because he knew what happened. Now, again, we have no idea what happened, obviously. And even if he had nothing to do with it, he knew he had to move on, even at 9 years old. But they didn't seem to really get along. And because of this, the picture, many believe, means that Burke killed his sister. But kids are fucking weird.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Burke and JonBenet were 3 years apart. They were different genders. My boys are almost exactly 3 years apart, and they do not always get along. You've seen that.
Right.
They do not always get along. One, because of the age difference, but also because they're two different people with two different minds, two different personalities. But if someone messes with the other one, there's issues.
Right.
So I don't think them not being really close and not getting along means anything. They're siblings being siblings.
Mm-hmm.
And then sadly, some siblings just aren't connected.
Mm-hmm.
And, if kids aren't attached or connected to someone, doesn't really bother them if they come or go. And this also could just be him dealing with it and coming to terms with the fact that his sister was no longer alive. And in a child's mind, her not being alive could mean that she's not a part of his family anymore.
Right.
Not only that, his dad had told him that JonBenet was in heaven. So he may have just known that she wasn't coming back because they were a very religious family. So I don't really think it's anything.
I think that's reaching.
Yeah. Of course she's still a part of his family, but he's 9 years old.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, he's at that age, he has no understanding of that.
Kids that age, out of sight, out of mind.
Right, exactly.
And it was a traumatizing event.
Exactly.
So there's a lot that plays into that.
Right. So now it's been brought up that when they were both younger, they were 6 and 9 at the time that this happened, so even younger than that Burke had hit JonBenet in the head with a golf club. Hard enough that it had left a scar under her right eye, and Patsy had even consulted plastic surgeons to have the scar removed. Now, the Ramseys claim this was an accident. And this very well could be true. Kids accidentally hit each other all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think Dax was like a year or two old. We were outside. Logan was swinging around one of them giant baseball bats. Daxton came running and accidentally hit him with it. Obviously, it didn't hurt him. He just kind of fell down. But kids accidentally hit each other all the time. So just because it left a mark doesn't mean that he did it on purpose. Because I don't know how old they were when this happened. She could have been just learning to walk.
Right.
That doesn't point to anything. It doesn't show a pattern as people have claimed. None of that. So this one incident is where a lot of the theories about Burke come from. Many people say he's violent and that shows a pattern of it. I don't think it does.
I don't think it does either.
But it does.
Now, something weird is that when he was little, after his sister murder, a doctor had asked him how he thought his sister died. And apparently Burke had said, quote, "Probably a hammer hit her in the head." So that's weird. He started this statement with, "I don't know. She was killed, and then after being pushed a little bit harder, he said a hammer." But before that, he said with a knife. He thought she got stabbed with a knife and did the whole, like stabbing motion with his hand. Then after being pushed, he said she was hit with a hammer. We know that she wasn't stabbed. So if he knew what happened, then why Why would he say that? So that doesn't make any sense for him to say, oh, she was stabbed if he knew what happened. Like, why go there? So now seeing this as an adult, he said he thought they were asking him to theorize about what happened. And at first he said that he just said he didn't know, but they kept asking. And so he gave them an answer, which that's what a kid is going to do. The reports about his interviews with the psychologist when he was a child said that he was strikingly unemotional, very detached, and that he had trouble opening up about his family, and that this indicated to him that he was a typical child that was holding something back about his family. Or he could have been a 9-year-old who traumatically lost his sister
and shut down.
Right. So in that interview with Dr. Phil, he said that his parents loved his sister a lot. People speculate that this means that he didn't care or love his sister, but I don't think.
See how?
Yeah. He wasn't talking about himself. He was talking about his parents. And like I told you before, he just seems like he's awkward. He seems like he's very uncomfortable, and it seems like he's trying to talk more about how his parents are innocent and not about himself. Like he is in no way, from where I'm sitting, making it about him. I think he's bad with his words. I think he's bad at expressing what he thinks and how he feels and what happened, all of that. He was 9 years old when it happened. He didn't get a whole lot of attention. So it seems like he's just bad at expressing things, is how it comes across to me. You'll have to watch it, and then you can let me know. You can let me know what you think. But that's what I think it is. I think he's just socially awkward. I think he is just bad with his words, because some people are. They're just not good at expressing those things. Mike is one of those people.
TJ's the same way.
Right. They're just not good at it. So, and then because he was so young when this happened, and everything is centered about figuring out what happened to his sister, he didn't get those skills that he should have got at that age, which that's not his fault, but a lot of people fault him for that. And you can't really blame his parents either.
No.
You know, I mean, they still have to take care of him, but then they're also fighting to get justice for their daughter as well.
And mourning.
Exactly. It's a double-edged sword, really.
Right.
So now before we move on to other suspects, I want to tell you what the Ramsey family themselves think happened. So they thought that someone had broken into their home while they were at the White's Christmas party, because they were gone for several hours. This would have given whoever broke in time to find somewhere to hold up in the house, would have given them time to write that long-ass ransom note, and figure out the layout of the house.
That is true.
And it's happened before.
Yeah, that is definitely true.
So how random the person was, I'm not so convinced of that one. But I think it's very possible that the killer was already in the house. Especially with how large the house was and how many places there was for someone to hide without anyone knowing. I mean, that's the only way that no one would have heard them get in.
Right. That is true.
So there's that. So moving away from the Ramsey family, we're going to briefly talk about John Carr. He was a former teacher who had been arrested in Bangkok 10 years after the crime because he had claimed to be with JonBenet when she died, and he said it was an accident. He gave a graphic and horrific account of the murder when his confession came in. He was not arrested for this. Okay, his confession came after he was arrested. He was arrested because they found a ton of child sexual abuse images on his home computer. And while in custody, confession came out, but he was cleared when his DNA was tested. And it was not a match.
Why would you admit to something like that?
People do.
Yeah, I know.
Yep.
It's fucking weird.
Yep. No idea why. It's not something I will ever understand, but people do it. The next suspect we have is Gary Olivia. He is a known sex offender and lived close to the Ramsey home at the time. On the evening of December 26th, so the night JonBenet was murdered, his high school friend had received a call, and Gary was said to be sobbing and said that he had hurt a little girl. He would not give any other details other than saying that he was in Boulder. Once the news of JonBenet's murder went public, this friend called police and told them everything. The police said they would get back with him, but they never did. So his friend followed up 2 weeks later. There was no answer, so he left a message, but they never returned his call.
That's fucked up.
Yeah. Then in 2016, Gary Olivia's name came back up when he was arrested on another charge. And when he was arrested this time, he was found with a stun gun. He also had cutouts of JonBenet from a magazine in his backpack and a poem that he had written about her titled Ode to JonBenet.
That's weird.
Yeah. And when they spoke with him, he admitted to being obsessed with her. Mm-hmm. The Ramseys thought that he was a pretty good suspect, so they hired a private investigator. But eventually, DNA would rule him out. Despite this, though, he wrote and sent that same friend he had called before a confession about the murder because they had stayed in touch over the years while he was in prison, and this friend was hoping that he would confess something to him.
Mm-hmm.
In this letter, he wrote, quote, I never loved anyone like I did JonBenet, and yet I let her slip and her head bashed in half and I watched her die. It was an accident. Please believe me, she was not like the other kids.
Fucking sick.
Yep. But it's not true because his DNA cleared him.
I know, but he's still a sick fuck.
Yeah. No idea what his motivations are there.
Fucking weird.
Yeah. That's to say it lightly. Our next suspect is Michael Helgoth. This man was an electrician who had worked near the Ramsey home at an auto salvage yard, and he had actually done work inside their home before as well. Someone who had worked with him in the past said that he believed this guy was responsible for the crime, and he further said that about a month before JonBenet's death, Michael had told him, quote, he and a partner were going to make a great deal, and they each will bring in around $50,000 to $60,000. Now, if you remember, the ransom note amount was for $118,000.
Mm-hmm.
Split that evenly, it's $59,001. This guy also remembered Michael saying that when they were walking into the Ramsey house to do some electric work, quote, I wonder what it would be like to crack a human skull.
Damn.
At some point, there was an alleged property dispute with the Ramseys as well that he had also gotten involved in. Then 2 days after the press conference about the case where officials claimed that they were closing in on the killer, Alex Hunter, who was the DA in this press, said that the list of suspects had narrowed and soon there would be no one left on that list but the killer. 2 days later, Michael killed himself.
Holy shit.
Yep. Michael had similar boots to those that left the print at the crime scene, but DNA eventually cleared him.
Of course.
So that clears everyone so far. All great suspect, but each and every one was cleared. Now we move to the housekeeper, Linda Pugh. I'm pretty sure that's how you say her name. I could be saying it wrong. I'm not really sure. She was married, and her husband had also worked for the Ramseys as a handyman. Both had keys to the Ramsey house. Linda later said that she believed Patsy had accidentally killed JonBenet. Patsy claimed that Linda had asked her for money, to which Patsy said she would have been more than glad to give her. Linda had allegedly mentioned to Patsy once that JonBenet was very pretty and asked her if she was worried that someone might kidnap her. So it does not seem like these two get along at all.
Right.
Now, Patsy and John did eventually write a book, and Linda filed a slander and libel suit against them because she claimed that they were insinuating she had something to do with their daughter's death. I don't know if Linda had anything to do with it. There really isn't much out there, like, about her involvement in any of it. I really think it's more of like a tit for tat. Mm-hmm. Like, they just really did not seem to get along, and I think because of that, it seems like Patsy was suspicious. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, you know, you and your husband both have access to our house. You're asking me for money. We don't like each other. You asked me this weird question about me being worried if my daughter's going to get kidnapped.
Right.
I would probably be suspicious too. Mm-hmm. So the last suspect that I'm going to tell you about has its very own theory. This is what everyone calls the Santa theory. Have you heard this one? Mm-mm. I had not heard this one either. So this guy's name is Bill McReynolds. He was a family friend, and he's, I guess, dressed as Santa for all the family Christmas parties. He was not at the party that night that they had went to, but he had been at one just a few days before, and he was dressed as Santa. At this party, people said that he seemed to pay a little too much attention to JonBenet. This was the guy that JonBenet had given that vial of glitter to that I told you about. Mm-hmm. She told him that it was stardust, and she gave it to him so that way he could take it into his heart surgery with him. And later, he would go on to say that when he died, he wanted the glitter to be mixed with his ashes, which that could go either way. It's a little weird, but he was a friend of the family.
Still weird.
So you could look at it both ways. Like, he cared for this little girl and now she's gone. Maybe it's his way of remembering her, but it could also be, on the other hand, like an obsession thing.
He's going to be dead. What the hell is he going to remember?
Well, it's just like, when people, I want you to put some of my ashes in, a necklace. But you know what I'm saying?
For the living to remember. If he's going to be dead, how's he going to know if glitter is mixed?
And it's the same as, like, I want to be spread into the ocean. How are you going to know what the fuck somebody does with your ashes? You're dead. You know what I mean? You can see it either way. It could go on either hand.
That's fucking weird.
It is weird. I think it's fucking weird. I fully agree with you. It's weird as fuck. But I'm just saying, devil's advocate.
Right.
It could go either way. I don't know which way he meant it. There was never any clarification. It's weird as fuck. But it could have just been an innocent thing.
Right.
He could have just been extremely close to her. Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. Just putting it out there. Doesn't mean that he's a murderer, though.
No.
By any means.
No, just fucking weird.
There were also rumors that JonBenet had told people that Santa was going to pay her a special visit after Christmas.
Yeah, but
it could be nothing.
That doesn't, it doesn't necessarily mean that she met him.
Right, exactly.
But
it could have been somebody else that dressed up as Santa.
Right.
Who knows? It could have been something that her parents told her. Mm-hmm. If you're good, then Santa will pay you an extra bit. You know what I mean?
Right.
That could be anything.
Right.
Of course, people thought that this meant that he was going to go into the Ramsey home, break in, but police said that they never considered him or his wife to be any kind of serious suspect. Mm-hmm. Bill passed away in 2002 from a heart attack at the age of 72. In 2006, Patsy Ramsey passed away at 49 from ovarian cancer. She was buried next to JonBenet and John's other daughter, Elizabeth, in Marietta, Georgia. And she died before ever getting any kind of resolution in her daughter's case. Now, the DNA that was found on JonBenet's underwear was found to be that of an unidentified male. And like I said, did not belong to anyone within the Ramsey family. This is one of those cases where there are so many theories, but there's nothing to say what actually happened. It is so much information, confusing information, along with the weird and then damning interviews. Mm-hmm. As we know, no one has ever been arrested or charged in the murder of JonBenet. But in January of this year, CNN released a new article about the case. And in it, they said that John Ramsey said he planned to ask the Boulder police to do more DNA testing now that technology has advanced. He wants to use genetic genealogy like they did in the Golden State Killer to solve his daughter's case. He told CNN, quote, "I'm very satisfied and impressed with the new leadership now in place," meaning the Boulder Police Department, "and believe they are committed to do all that can be done using the latest technology and believe available resources to identify the killer. That is all we can ask for." John further told CNN that he believes that Boulder officials are continuing to move the investigation forward using all tools available today and that the DNA has a high probability to find the killer. Which he's not wrong.
No.
Because DNA doesn't lie.
Right.
So now in March of this year, News Nation spoke with John Ramsey again. And in this piece, they discussed a suspect that has now reemerged in the case, one that I did not tell you about. Mm-hmm. So this man's name is Chris Wolf. His former girlfriend went to Boulder PD asking them to take another look at him in this case because he was previously a suspect. She also accused him of being the killer of Susanna Chase, who was found raped and beaten to death on December 21st of 1997. She was 23 years old at the time of her death. But that case was solved, and Chris Wolf was not the one arrested or found guilty. So now, for evidence that she gave police, this included his whereabouts, which he was not at home that night. And she told them about how he became agitated when the case hit TV. She handed over dirty clothes stained with mud that she found the morning after the murder. And apparently he became upset whenever she asked where he had been and how they had gotten dirty. She also told them that a baseball hat and a Maglite flashlight went missing from their home around the time of the murder, along with several feet of rope. She told Boulder police that he had compared himself to OJ, saying they both had gotten away with everything, and that he had said if he would strangle someone, he would use rope and not his hands. Wolf had apparently made accusations against John, saying that he had been sexually abusing JonBenet. And she also gave them samples of Wolf's handwriting. Now, there's never been any evidence. And as far as I know, this man is the only man that has ever made allegations against John sexually abusing his daughter. Mm-hmm. I just want to make that clear.
Right.
This is the only account of that I found anywhere. Mm-hmm. Wolf denies all accusations, calling them absurd, as he always has. In 2011, he was cleared, but his ex is not convinced of his innocence. And she thinks Boulder police should take another look at him. So maybe this will go somewhere. Maybe it won't. Whether he's the guy or not, at the very least, it's once again bringing attention back to the case. Obviously, the Ramseys have never let it go cold. They are constantly asking and wanting to know what's going on, but maybe by her bringing him back in, it'll force them to take a whole new look at it. And maybe they'll do the genetic genealogy. Who knows? So hopefully they can find something out with that if they do it just as they did the Golden State Killer and finally be able to solve it. So everybody go do your ancestry test. Click your little button so that way your DNA can be used. Maybe your DNA is what they need to solve it. Wouldn't that be some crazy shit?
That'd be fucking weird.
So now everyone has to be careful, okay, in how they say things, because people have been sued for defamation, libel, and all of those things due to their personal opinions about this case. But I'm curious to see what everyone else thinks. Now that I've laid the entire case out, I'm curious to what everyone else out there thinks.
Just watch how you word it.
Exactly. You have to be very careful. You can leave those comments below. If you don't want to leave a comment publicly, because of the scrutiny and all of that, send us an email. Personally, I do not think any of the Ramsey family members had anything to do with the death of JonBenet or what happened to her post-mortem. I was very much on the bandwagon that those three knew what the fuck was happening. But after doing the deep dive, knowing everything that I know, I do not think any of them were involved. There's a lot of suspicious shit that's weird as fuck, and it does leave that cloud over them. And honestly, until this case is solved, I don't think that cloud's going to go anywhere.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
But just based off of everything that I know, that I've told you, I don't think they were involved. Was there maybe some stuff happening behind closed doors? Most likely, because every family has skeletons. Every family has their secrets that other people don't know.
That is true.
But I don't think it's a secret like this. But that's just me. I have other beliefs around the case. Okay? I have my own personal thought about what happened, but I do not think it was the Ramsey family. I think, sadly, they became victims in all of this as well. So the biggest things that I pull away from this and them not being involved is that boot print. Because they didn't have any boots like that. That half palm print that did not match any of them, and the DNA that did not match anyone.
Right.
That means that someone else was in that home that night. We just don't know who it was. Mm-hmm. See, and the palm print and the boot print were right there with her body. So, but it could have been one of the 50 million other fucking people allowed to trape through the house.
Right.
So I hope John Ramsey is able to get closure before he passes away, because as of now, he is 81 years old.
Right.
And I hope that they're able to figure out all of this to clear Burke's name, because he was just a child. Mm-hmm. His name comes up a lot in this case. And I really hate for the last 28 years, there has been this cloud of suspicion looming over him on whether he killed his sister or not. So I really hope they can solve this one soon. I was 2 years old when JonBenet was killed. So I've seen her face everywhere my entire life. And I would like to see this one also solved.
Yeah, most definitely.
In my lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
So that's it. That's the end of JonBenet as of right now.
I did learn stuff I didn't know about.
There's a lot that you don't know.
That I didn't know at all. And I've been following it, not like in detail like you did and stuff like that, but like I have watched different interviews and her mom and her dad and like looked at all her pageant pictures and then stuff like that. But I did find out new stuff. I still have my opinions that I'm not going to discuss, but I would for her brother and her dad. And I hate that her mom is not alive anymore. At least maybe they can get, her brother and her dad can get some kind of closure.
Right.
I think the cops fucked it up off top.
Oh, yeah.
I think that maybe if they would have did what the hell that they were supposed to do, maybe they could have found the person or at least had enough evidence for it to be reopened that the new detectives could solve it. I do think the law failed them.
Yeah.
Most fucking
because now the new detectives kind of have to work through the mess that the originals created.
Bullshit.
Yep.
And I think the DA's office can kindly fuck off.
Right.
Can most definitely fuck off because I think if it would have been one of their family members, kids, their friends' kids, I think it would have been handled way different.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's fucking bullshit.
Yep.
To me, it looks like they look at it like she was just some little pageant queen that parents had money.
Mm-hmm.
Is how I'm taking it. It was never said that.
Right.
But it's how I'm taking it. And it was a lot of publicity. And I don't think they fucking took it serious. Or they are trying to cover up somebody major.
I think that it's someone that is higher up the food chain than John Ramsey himself.
Oh, most definitely.
Or it was like one of their relatives or something like that. Mm-hmm. And because of that pull, they have been protected for all these years.
Yeah. And it's fucking bullshit. That little girl suffered in a way that no child, well, no human should suffer, especially no little girl that's innocent like that.
No.
At all.
I just hope that everything that came to follow while she was alive happened while she was unconscious.
Most definitely.
That's what I hope.
Most definitely.
So that way she wasn't aware of anything.
I just hate that everything that she had accomplished up until the day of her death doesn't seem to be remembered as much as what happened to her before and after she died.
Right. That's what everyone remembers her.
I think it's sad as hell. And then the pictures that are online, I would never want those pictures of my kids.
Right.
If that ever happened to one of my kids. At all.
I did not share. I showed them to Mandy. I have like 3 crime scene photos.
Yeah.
But they're nothing. There are actual crime scene photos of JonBenet, photos of her autopsy that are available online if you want to go see them, but I have not and will not be posting those.
Yeah, I don't think we should post them at all.
No. And that's what pictures she's referring to.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're horrific and sad.
Yep. Those should have been kept in her file in the office, and that's it. Yeah.
It's sad. I hope we find justice for her, though.
I hope so. Hopefully, they'll do the genetic genealogy. Because, honestly, I think at this point, that's really the only way they're going to solve it, in my opinion. I mean, they've solved many cases with genetic genealogy. And I think this is one that they should do it with.
And I hope it gets solved before something happens to her dad.
I hope so, too. So that way, it's not going to bring her back.
No, but it will give some type of closure as much as it could give.
Right. He'll at least know. And then he would know that that cloud of suspicion that looms over his family, over his son, is gone.
It's gone, yeah.
Because I fully believe once whoever did it is found, that cloud that's over Burke and will be his children if he ever has children. I don't know if he does or not at this point, but that cloud is going to loom over their entire family for generations to come until this is solved.
Well, I looked it up and it says Burke lives a very enclosed life because of all of this.
Mm-hmm.
That he's was it IT tech or something, technology, something to do with technology. He works, but he lives a very quiet, sheltered life because of this.
Yeah.
And I don't
blame him.
I would be the same damn way.
Oh, yeah. Like all of this, people looking at me and all this, I wouldn't want. Right. Right. And then he's kind of seemed that way as a child too, because the spotlight was never on him.
And then now all the spotlight's on him.
Right.
And it's negative.
Right.
Not all, because people have their different beliefs, but a lot of it that you look up is very negative.
Oh, yeah.
So he went from no attention, not being in a spotlight, to the biggest negative spotlight you could be in.
So I think that's part of also why, like on that Dr. Phil interview, he seems awkward. Well, and he seems very uncomfortable. And I fully believe that's why, because he's not used to things being about him and him being in the spotlight. And since he was 9 years old, there's been this dark cloud just kind of looming over him.
Well, and look what people try to accuse him of.
Right, exactly.
Too. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, and then how do you prove your innocence when nobody has been found guilty?
Right. I mean, there's DNA that has ruled all of them out. But even with that, so many people believe that he did it.
Right. Yeah. I wouldn't want to live like that.
No.
At all.
I would probably seclude myself also.
Oh, most definitely.
I would probably move to a different country.
That too.
A different planet if I could, just to get away from people. Shit, I'd probably do that now if I could. That's what I was just saying. What am I talking about? I'd do that shit now.
Yeah.
I fucking hate people.
I hope it.
Because people are trash.
They are. And I don't know. I just hope for them.
Yeah.
They find out who it is and they find closure. And I mean, you can't never forget it.
No.
Especially losing your child, but
maybe
I don't know how to explain it.
They would be able to move on with their lives.
I mean,
in a sense.
Their dad is already.
Right.
Their mom is gone.
Yep.
He's 81, you said?
Yep.
I mean, you don't know how much more time he has left.
Exactly.
Or he might still be hanging on to bring his daughter justice.
Maybe.
I would.
Right.
If I could.
Right.
I mean, I don't know.
From all accounts, I had watched the interview that he had done in March, and he looks like he's completely healthy.
Yeah, I just looked up pictures of him.
Yeah, he looks great for his age. Like, he doesn't even look 81 to me.
Right.
He looks fantastic for his age. And the fight for his daughter could be what is
way of living, yeah.
keeping him healthy and, still going and all of those things. That very well be what has kept him
going
so healthy over the years. Because, man, I hope I look that good when I'm 81. I'm not a man, but shit.
Well, if you look at pictures of their family, they are very nice looking.
Yeah.
The mom was pretty.
They have
JonBenet
good genes.
Pretty. Even Burke right now, he's nice looking.
Mm-hmm.
The dad's nice looking. They had a very nice looking family.
Oh, yeah. They have some good genes, that's for sure.
They sure in the hell did.
Mm. Hopefully we'll
shed some light.
Hopefully they'll do the genetic genealogy and we'll be able to finally know who did it.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. I couldn't imagine.
I know, God, that's got to be the worst thing ever. To live that long and not. I mean, it happens. Families do it, but she was 6 years old. You know what I mean? It makes it even harder to
wrap your mind.
Put yourself in that, yeah.
I mean, losing a child's hard. But imagine losing a child and somebody taking their life and then what she went through before she passed away, after she passed away.
And never knowing
who did it.
Yep.
No, fuck that. I would want to know who did it.
Right. And then you
want
get
to
6 years with your child.
Yeah.
And then they're just gone. You put them to bed. Everything's normal. You expect them to be there in the morning and they're not.
No, I'd want to know who did it.
Oh, yeah.
Most fucking definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We'll see what happens.
Fingers crossed. We'll see. Everybody, comment or send us those emails. Let us know.
Let us know your opinion. Just watch how you say it.
Yeah. If you send us an email, you can say it however. Because
say who it came from.
No. If you put it in the comments, just be careful.
Yeah.
So that way, nobody gets sued or any of that stuff. Be nice. Be respectful. All that. We're all entitled to our own opinions and nobody is going to agree. So just be mindful of all of that. And that's all we have this week.
That's it.
Yep. Come back next week for another episode. That's all I got. Come back on Friday for your bonus episode for July. We'll do the trial updates, sentencing, and all of that stuff from a couple weeks ago in that episode. Because it'll be shorter than normal. So we'll do all of that in that one bonus episode for this month. And then we'll move on to August.
Alrighty.
It's almost spooky season.
I can't wait.
I know. Got some good ones. All right. That's all we got. So, guys, remember, Facebook link is in the description. I have a few photos for this episode, just like last week. Get on there. Check those out. Make sure you're subscribed so that way you get notifications. Give us a rate, review, all of that fun stuff. And then we'll be back on Friday for that bonus. So make sure you guys keep listening and remember to
watch for monsters.
And don't kill people. Bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.
This.
You just broke.